Okay, I'm about to get ready for my show because I always sign in one. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today is Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. I am Salad Blue Sister, and this is My Turn to Talk. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Okay, so welcome. Hey, Frankie. All right, I'm going to stop the music here and we are going to get started. Okay, so today, I wanted to talk about society. Exactly who is society and why are they always in our business? You know, people tend to say, and I know I say it, I think we all say it or have said it at some point. When we talk about society, well, society thinks and society says, and, you know, society does this and society voted and, you know, society wants to do this and blah, 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 you know, about society. But exactly who is society? You know, and why do we care or should we care who society is? Now, people have different views on society. Some people see society as good. Some people see society as bad. And with everything that's going on right now, you know, with some of the Supreme Court decisions, such as Roe versus Wade, some of the laws that are out there now with, you know, voting, with CRT, just with everything that is out there, it seems like society has a say in what they want and what they don't want. But is society always listened to? Do people always listen to what society wants? Okay, so the definition of society is the aggregate of people living together in a more or less ordered area or an organization or club formed for a particular purpose or activity. So, again, what is society? Who is society? And should we care? Why does society have such a say in the things that society does or thinks? Does it depend upon what type of society you come from? Is society also a culture? You know, that is what I would like to know. Is society also a culture? Because different cultures have different societies, right? So if I come from a culture where they believe that um, if you get accused of a crime, say it rape or murder, then they take you out to a yard or something, and all the townspeople can come, and they can stone you. That's what their society thinks. But some societies say, well, in more progressive, when I say progressive, I don't mean on the political side of it. In more progressive societies where we're more, uh, we aren't animals, we don't do things like this, we're more ordered, we don't stone people. Instead, we put you out on a table, spread armed, and we inject you with chemicals until you die, or we electrocute you, or you know, um, in some places, we won't stone you, but we'll hang you. So our society is really different. So that's another question. Are we, really different? And why in some cases society gets a say, but in others societies, they don't get a say. If you live in a place where they have, what do I want to say, if you live in a place where they have a lot of uh, what is the word I want to use, let's see, if you live in a place where they have a dictator, or you live in a place where it's one party rule, and whatever that government says goes, society doesn't get a say. People don't care what society thinks. So again, I say, who is society, and why are they always in our business? Okay, so a definition of culture: the customs, art, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social group. Okay, and then going back to what a society is: the aggregate of people living together in an ordered community. I would almost say that a society and culture are almost the same. Almost. Okay, and hold on for 1 second. I just want to look something else up. Okay, so okay. Frankie, did you? Okay, so Frankie says society can breed dictators. Yes, societies can. So you can start off with a society that is free, and we have dictators. I mean, even right now in America, I think that there's, you know, different definitions of what democracy is. I happen to think that America is headed towards a dictatorship, the way things are going. Uh, Other people would disagree with me. So again, I ask, who is society? Should we care who society is? And doesn't it seem that society is always in our business? I don't want society to determine what goes on in my bedroom. I don't want society to determine what is taught in school. I don't want society to determine the type of health care that I get. I don't want society to determine who I can marry. And it seems like that I'm saying, okay, I'm for, you know, gay marriage. I'm for abortion. I'm for, you know, anything and everything being taught in schools. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I don't want society to make a law that sooner or later is going to um, a law that sooner or later is going to affect me in some way. And in my opinion, if we allow society to um, uh, if we allow society to continue to affect our way of life, pretty soon we are going to live in a communist country. We're going to have dictators and all this democracy that people are fighting over. Um, we won't have to fight anymore. So, again, who is society? Is society our next door neighbor? Is society our representative in our county? Is it the president of the United States? Is it the Pope? Is it a dictator in another country? Is it your mother, your father, your teachers? Is it your coworker? Who is society? Are society voters? But even now, is society even voters? Because, you know, we can't even vote anymore without the possibility of them being thrown out. So, who is society? Why do people always want to come back and say, well, society said this, society said that? But on the other hand, people who are for society and feel that we should listen to it no matter what, sooner or later, will that same society that you're listening to come back and bite you in the butt? Because it seems like no matter what we do in our daily life, no matter where we go, where we live, somebody's society is going to have a comment on what we say or do. Someone's society, or in the name of society, is going to bring about another law, or it will cancel out a law. All laws are not fair. All laws are not for the good of all. But yet society makes those laws. People in society. So I have come to the conclusion that I personally don't want society in my business. I don't want them in my bedroom. I don't want them in my personal life. I don't want them in my wallet. I don't want them in my business. And people have rebelled against society in different ways. Some people protest, some people boycott, some people go on hunger strikes. But when you're doing these things, when you're protesting, or even if you riot, aren't you doing that against society? Aren't you doing it against what you consider a perceived injustice for some people? But then again, some people just start riots and do things. Hello, Das. Some people, start riots and do things just because they can. Some people do it out of ignorance. But again, you know, does society dictate who we are and what we do? So again, when you look at laws that are coming about, is it society who is asking for these laws? Um, you know, uh, is society, like I said, is society the president? Is it the Pope? Is it, that dictator over there in, somewhere across the ocean? You know, um, does society give those people too much power? And like I said, uh, I don't want society or what they think in my bedroom. I don't want them telling me how I should and should not do things. So let's see. Power Girl says society is everyone. Okay, Dosh, you're coming in the middle, so I I'm not understanding what I know you're disagreeing with me, or you're just not following me. Probably you're just not following me. That's what I'm assuming, but it's cool. Sometimes people don't, So, but anyway, so again, I come back is with the question: who is society? And like I said early on, is society also culture? Society, the definition I put it in earlier, the aggregate of people living together in more or less an ordered area, and definition of culture, the customs, art, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social group. So, well, no, I'm not going all over the place. I'm talking about society, and you're coming in the middle. And if I seem like I'm going all over the place, sometimes it's because if people put something in the chat, I will respond to that. But I've been talking about what society is and the definition of it, and basically who society is and how society, they can make rules and laws and things like that. So that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so, and yes, when we were talking about, and I also said, do cultures make up societies? But every culture is different. What we do over here, they may not do in the UK. What they do in the UK, they may not do in Korea or China or India. You know, so that's that's when I say, okay, separate societies, right? So again, when I say who is society, because we have different societies and different cultures around the world, every society is different. So that means that various laws are also going to be different. Moshe, welcome.
Evening. Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Good evening.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
So I'm talking to you from the lowest point on earth, from Jericho. I don't know if you know that the lowest point on earth is Jericho in Palestine. And I would like just to give my definition about society.
Okay.
I think society is a group of people who is living on part of part of the earth, okay, and this group of people have their traditional and traditions, and I think their language and their I don't want to say religion, but it's a group of people who has this, you know a separate tradition and culture. That is the definition of society, I think, from my perspective.
Okay. So do you think that society is responsible for creating or upholding laws?
Definitely, because society is the group of people who create the government. So the government who put the law, it's coming from society, because the society, which is the people who choose these people.
But then that means that you'll always have a group in society who do not necessarily think that those laws or those people should be in place, correct? Because everyone in society is not going to think the same way.
Definitely, but majority of people who choose, for example, if there is election, they will choose the government who will govern them, and these people are being selected by the society. And when society watch these people are doing something wrong, then they can change their mind, and in the next election they will choose other people. So I think society is responsible about everything what's going on in their land, or on their nation, in their country. That's that's what I
Okay.
think.
All right. So then let me ask this then. Um, so if things are happening um, to if okay, so if society is choosing the people, the elected officials who are making these laws, and then you said, and if people don't like it, then they can, for the next election, then they can change and go with someone else. Does that mean that society is responsible for bad laws? If we're if we're if we are electing people to represent us and they make these laws, and if the laws are bad laws, or they're laws that don't represent everyone, is society is society responsible for those bad laws?
Definitely, if society keeps silent about these bad laws, then they are, participating in that crime, because they are keeping silent. But if they stand up and demonstrate against these bad laws, then they will definitely put a pressure on that government, and that government will change the rules and change the law. But if the people keep silent and do nothing, then the government, they will do more than these things against the people.
Okay.
So the society is responsible.
Okay. And Doss says, Solid, I think you're overthinking the subject and making it more complicated than it really is. No, Doss. What I do is I play both sides. When someone says something, I challenge them, and I welcome people to challenge me. I've always been like this. I mean, this is how I have always been, even when I was little. So you may think that I'm overthinking. I'm just playing both sides, and I just like to push, and I want people to push back on me, because I truly want to know what people are thinking, and and when I ask Moshe a question, he is answering me. He's telling me what he thinks. So um, that's the only way that I can answer what you just said. And welcome, the only crazy lady. Welcome. So Moshe, would you say that when we vote, that, and again, every society is different. Do you think that people who live in a dictatorship should be able to vote as opposed to having one person decide what they're going to do for society?
There is a big difference in many countries. Like there is countries being ruled by autocracy and maybe generatocracy, maybe sometime, uh, ethnocracy. It depends on the place. But what I say is, even if you are being held by dictatorship and autocracy government, that is also about society, because society who keeping silent about this dictatorship, because if we stand up, if we stand together, this society will remove that dictatorship. And we have many examples about this. If you remember what happened in Egypt, Mubarak, he ruled the country for more than 20 years, and suddenly people woke up and demonstrate on the street, and you know they fired him, and he ran away because society stand up. So society is the first who, I don't want to say to be blamed, but they are the one who have to be blamed, and they are the one who can make change. So maybe I didn't answer your question,
No, no, no. You
but
you 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 absolutely did. You absolutely did.
so, and there is another example what happened in Iran when the Shah was holding the country. He ruled the country over than more than also 15 years, and the people stand up, and he left because people, the crux of change, you know. So people is the one who can say at the end of the day what they want. If the people are not united and they don't want to stay in together, then that dictatorship or the government will do what they want, as they want, not as people what they want. So that's my, I think this is my view.
Okay.
But government and these people are being elected to serve, not to rule.
Okay.
We have
So
to, yeah.
okay, no, I'm just looking at what Frankie said. Frankie said, "What about China?" And Frankie, I'm going to assume you mean why China has not been able to become a democracy. Is that what you mean? Okay, so then I'm just going to pick up. Okay, so she says yes. So I'm going to pick up from what Frankie says. So when you have something like Tiananmen Square back in the 80s, you had society rise up. Why do you think that, even though the people have spoken, but it's still the country that it is? Moshe, I was asking you.
So I thought you were asking Frankie.
No,
Sorry.
no, no, no. I'm asking
So,
you.
example like China. China is a big country, big population, more than 2 billion people is living there. So, China, I have been to China, and just I would give you a short story. I was there for more than 3 months, and one of my Chinese friend, when I arrived there, I was looking to use Facebook, and I tried to use Facebook. I couldn't use it, so I asked the question to my friend from China, why I can't have access to Facebook. And he responded to me in one sentence. He said to me, the government is, they know how they defend us. So we give them this responsibility, you know. So people are trusted the government too much. So that's why they depend on the government and they give their loyalty to government. It's in China is completely different because in China, if you go to China, you will find whatever you want. For example, just small things like equipment for people to play in the morning when they wake up. You will find it next to your house. That government provide. I'm just giving you small things which can, you know, give people that the government taking care of them. You will find everything is cheap, like transportation, everything is available. They are enjoying their life, so they will not do anything against the government. And I have seen this by my own eye, for my own eyes, or by my own eyes. Sorry, my English is not perfect. I'm trying. So I saw that, and that's why I think that's why they are not standing, because the government are giving them all entertainment and everything, and doing good for their country.
Okay, so that means that in any culture or society where you live, if something were to go haywire, or all of a sudden the people are not happy, couldn't you say, and again I'm playing but both sides here, couldn't you say that it's not the government's fault, that it's society's fault for giving these people in government or these elected people or whomever your support or your vote? So instead of saying the government, the government, the government, and you're saying that the government is, taking care of them, if something were to go wrong, then it's not the government's fault, it's society's fault for supporting them.
No, but the society is accepting and feeling happy for what government are doing to them. Then it's okay. But when government do bad things and they are not listening to people, people will stand up. That's my point. So society is the one who changed the game, changed the rule, because
Right,
we
but
elected the
society,
government to serve us, not to rule us, as I mentioned.
right, but society put these people in office, right?
Okay.
So if I vote for someone and they're not doing a good job, then can I blame that person who is in office that I voted for? Or should it be, partly my fault or mostly my fault because I voted for this person? I mean, because right now I voted for someone who is not doing a good job. Do I blame him or do I blame me? So,
when when that person which you elected promised that I gonna do change, and you trust him and you give him that vote because he said that I will make that change and he didn't do, then you have to blame yourself, and you have to blame the person, because you gave them that responsibility, and you gave them that trust, so and he didn't do what he said. So he cheat you or he lied to you. So then you had to stand up and you have to ask him, you promised that you will do that change and you didn't do, and we gave you more than 2 years and you only just speaking. So you have to leave that place because you are not honest.
okay.
I think that's what happened with Boris Johnson in UK, because I think that's what I was listening to people on podcast 2 days ago, and people, they were saying that Boris Johnson, he was lying too much. Every time he lies, every time. So that's why I think he resigned, and people was given up of him. So
Okay.
that's one example.
So, Mosher, then what do you do if you're in a society where, you know, you're choosing people who are not good, period, or and getting away from the political side, just if you're in a society who they have an opinion about everything. You have a society where they want to, like I said, they want to be in your bedroom. They want to say, who you can and you cannot marry. They want to say, how you should give birth. They want to say, how your children are taught. They want to say what you can buy at the market. Isn't
This is
but isn't
this
that
is the,
society just getting into your business just a little bit too much?
but what you have just given example, it's not society fault. This is rules by the government, for example. But this is, I don't like, this is controlling. This is centralization, which I hate, and I don't like these too much restrictions. And as I said again, if the people keep silent, then these government will do more bad things against the people. But if we speak out, then the government will shut down all these things, and they will not try to do these things again.
Okay.
You know,
All right.
for example, I just will give you a small example. Maybe in the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, the petroleum and the gas price have been high. I don't know if you're in country also. I'm talking about some countries, and some countries, they just turned off the cars, and they didn't drive that day, for example, and because the price was high. Why they are raising the price so quickly? So the people, they decided in one day, we will not use our cars, and that put pressure on the government to reduce the price again. You see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So people are the one who stand up, and the government was being forced to, because they will lose if they didn't reduce the price, because no one is buying that gas, or no one is buying that petrol. So when they decided to stand up together, government obeyed to them.
And I think you're right, because before you came on earlier, I was saying that when people in society, some people they boycott, some people protest, some people riot, whatever, and they do it to affect change. So
Exactly,
so
exactly.
yeah, I mean, and again, the questions that I ask and everything, I play both sides. I push. I welcome people to push back on me, whatever. So yeah, okay, all right. Let's see. I see Crazy and Ba are here. Do you guys want to pop in? And Mosher, as you can see, Ba, he agrees with you. No problem, Crazy. I know you are at work. Moshe, you said that you're from Palestine.
Yeah, I'm from Palestine.
Okay, all right. So, in terms of societal changes, do you see any common denominator between, say, the U.S. and Palestine when it comes to society? Do you see us the same, or do you see us more different?
Um, you're talking
just
about
in just in
regards.
terms of what society does, like what we do here in the US. You may do some of that in Palestine, or you may not, or
We have a big difference between United States and Palestine. United States is freedom country, and it's free country. They have freedom, but we are the only country in the world which is still under occupation. So we are suffering, and I can't just make comparison about us and you.
okay.
But if you go about talking about society, we have, as I said to you, each society has their tradition, have their culture, and so I respect, and I love United States, because I have never been there, but I know that they respect democracy, and they respect freedom, and people are living free. But here in my country, people are, hungry for freedom. People are facing discrimination, segregation, and brutalization, annihilation, dehumanization. Whatever you talk about Asian, it's a big difference. But we are still hoping that, I am optimistic person, and I think one day we will have our freedom. Then I can express my society to you.
Okay, so Mosher, let me ask this, and I would say this would go across all societies, no matter what culture you're in or where you're from. Do you think society is responsible for homelessness and poor people, or do you think the government is? And I know
Sorry
that's
again.
a.
I did. Sorry. Again. Repeat your question.
Do you think that society is responsible for homelessness and poor people, or do you think the
No, society is
government
not
is?
responsible. No, no. So society is not responsible about this. Government is responsible, because the government, they have to offer the work for people, because this is their job, to offer work to people. Government are responsible for these people who is homeless. They have to check, and they have to try to find solution. I know it's difficult to find solution one time, in one time, sorry, but they can have it gradually, and they can find this step by step. So I'm not saying that these government will solve the problem in one trick, or in one second, but it will take time. So they have government problem, government issue. They have to put a plan how they can annihilate this problem.
Okay, all right. Bob, welcome. I know you have something to say, and you've already said that you agreed with Mosher, so I know you have something to say. So welcome, welcome.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. No, I mean this show. I know what you're thinking. Every time we have a show, I blame the government, the government, the
No,
government,
and that's well, actually, nope, that's not. See, Bob. Don't assume. Don't assume. This was
well,
a.
I do say it. No, I'm admitting that I say it. Like I do
Okay,
say it, and
okay.
I think that this show is ideal for talking a little bit about that. So I just looked up the word society, and I don't know if I jump out to read the screenshot, if you can hear me, so I'll paraphrase. But it's basically a group of individuals who are in constant contact, which I laughed at because that does not happen anymore. I actually, and again, I'm open to being corrected on this. I don't think there is society anymore. That's been eradicated. And some of the questions you were saying to Moshir just now, I know you're playing devil's advocate, so I'm not going to say I'm disagreeing with you. But I really don't think that any of this, like, because we don't have a voice. Like, I don't know what the next person in my street thinks. I don't know what anyone thinks in my town, in my neighborhood, in my city. There's no like togetherness. Maybe back in the day there was like neighborhood watch, and actually I'm thinking about something that I found out about California when I was over there. You guys have you guys pay to some neighborhood thing that says that you can't paint your door a certain color and you
No,
can't,
that's in
you know,
certain areas. It's
what's that
called
again?
a homeowners association. I would never ever live in
Yeah.
an HOA ever.
Yeah, HOA, yeah. So I mean, when I was over visiting my wife's obviously from California for people that don't know. So when I'm over there, there was this house in the street that painted their house a lime green color, and it was disgusting. But it was just to get back at the HOA, and I'm like, what? You guys pay for this? So you've actually told me something I didn't know, that it's not everyone that has to do that. I thought this was a thing
Oh no.
because here in the
But it's not
UK
just
we do have.
California. The entire country, some places have HOAs and some of them don't. So it's not just
Yeah.
California.
Okay. Well, here in the UK, we have council, small government, like councils that they collect our dustbins and pretty much that's it. Cut the grass of the local parks, and you pay them £100 roughly a month. Every house in the UK pays £100 a month on average. Some people are 160, some people are 80, but it's roughly 100. And I would have made a a claim that maybe that's the lowest form of society that we have, is maybe a neighborhood watch or a council that we can go and voice our opinions to. But that doesn't change anything. Like, sometimes I think when we do shows, and we talk about societal pressure to do things, that's the government and that's the media, because that's how they want us to live from now on. Like, you know, mm, I don't know. Most of your shows, although it's societal issues, it's not society that's pushing it in that direction. That's probably a better way of saying it, in my
Okay.
opinion.
All right. So, do you think that, like Mosher said, that the majority of society will elect a person, and if we're not happy, then society goes back and we elect someone else?
I mean, that's probably the only time that we can be heard as a society is when we vote, whether it's local or you guys say federal, like
Hmm.
and even then, there's a cause that I wouldn't really call that society. It's just a vote. There's no like, see, this is the, like, going back to the description of the word society, where it says individuals who are in constant contact and basically, talking. And I would see like a neighborhood watch is like meeting up once a week or once every 2 weeks and talking about, let's start cleaning up the park. It's a bit, there's litter everywhere there, and that's society. And then, because if people are getting oppressed, or even like how we talk about society back in the day, you couldn't get married, you couldn't have kids unless you were married. That's not society again. I think media is what we're getting mixed up with, because I'm sure people don't do those things because most people just look after their own selves. I don't get it.
Okay, but now see, now I have to push back on you with the media thing, because again,
Yeah.
if you go back 1,000 years, 2,000 years to the time of Jesus and what have you,
Hmm.
people were getting married. They got married
Yeah.
before they had kids, and
Yeah.
you didn't
Well
have
then I would.
CNN, and you didn't have all that stuff. So again,
Yeah.
when you say media, again, I always say look at the whole. You just can't look at what's
Yeah.
going on now. Look at what's going on before that. Before that, and did society dictate that?
Hmm.
Yes, before you had a baby, you got married. Before you did this,
Yeah.
you had to do this. That was society telling,
Yeah.
kind of dictating what was going on.
Yeah, well, I would say to defend that would be that religion, and there was still some form of media, because there would have been, a town crier or maybe some form of newspaper. So there was some, push, like an influence, will we say. I think that basically society is influence. It's an influence from somewhere. And obviously, in today's age, it's either social media, the media, or the government. There's no society in today, in 2022, and probably the last time there would have been society would have been the 1990s, I would say. And even then, I could be I stood corrected, because I think it's been a while since people actually spoke. And again, when I heard you guys talking about protesting, was it, or the truckers, or some kind of protest, that is a form of society. I will say that people getting together are sick and tired of the way the country is being run, or the town is being run, or the city, and starting a protest in some way. That's society. But some of the things that we're arguing about in today's world is it's not society, in my opinion.
Okay, so Mosher, do you want to respond to what Boss said?
Uh, I just have one comment that society is still there because we represent society, and together we create society, and each country have their own society, so society still is there. And this is my view.
Okay, Ba.
I mean, society has been eradicated, to the point where, like I says, even in my hometown, it's a population of 20,000, but people didn't talk other than social media, Facebook, and that's not, I mean, that is a form of society again, but it's not utilized to its best capacity. There's no you know, groups together to meet and do good. There's no do-gooders. There's no, there's nothing like that anymore. Even a neighborhood watch. I know that probably got a bad rap at some point for nosy neighbors, people peering out their windows, but it's just been eradicated. So, for example, like if you take some of the problems that we have in today's world, how do you feel if there was a society that they can influence those bad things? Because I just don't see it. I don't see how it's when people come on and talk about I feel pressured. Who are they feeling pressured by? Because you hardly see anyone. You're walking about the streets, no one's talking, no one's saying hello, how's your day? Hope you're having a great day. There's really little small um, interaction between actual people anymore.
Okay,
Okay, but
okay, go on.
I think you have mistaken about something here. Now you have to know this is, you call it socialization. Social is something different than a society. So I think you are right about what social media did to people. They make it, they made people separated, and they made people busy on social media and there's no interaction. But this is, we call it socialization, and this is about the people. And this is, we have to blame ourselves about this, but this is have nothing to do with society, the people who, who the people who is living on earth, on the place inside the country. This is the society. So but what you are talking about is socialization, and social media did more harm on people. I agree with you, and we have to blame ourselves. And this is my point.
Mhm.
Okay, Bob, before you respond, I just want to read what DMAX said to you. He says, Bob, there is society. Society dictates that you don't walk down the streets naked. Society says you don't gun someone down. Society dictates that you don't mow your lawn before 8 a.m. So, Bob, you want to respond to DMAC and
Yeah,
also to Mosher?
mm, yeah. I was reading that comment, and again, I am open to criticism and pushback for what I'm saying. I think I'm maybe getting a little bit of my terms maybe wrong, because what DMAC is saying, and again, I could be wrong here, but to me that's the government. The government don't let you walk around the street naked, although it's becoming more and more closer to that point. And I'm sure you know what I mean. And then says that you don't gun someone down. Well, that's law as well. That's government laws and government,
But
influence.
is that okay? But is that a government law?
Because,
I mean, because
well,
I mean, I'm pretty sure
a
your
better way,
neighbor doesn't want you to go and gun someone down.
no,
So that's not
yeah,
the
but
government. I mean, your neighbor, or I mean, I wouldn't want you to go and just gun someone down. So
yeah, but what I'm saying is that back in the day, maybe before, like, I mean, like even in biblical times, the Bible and religion probably set a lot of that in place, and we've just always stuck to it because we all know it's morally wrong. Like that society, I would say that we all can realize that certain things are right and wrong, but more so on the naked thing. Like I would push back by asking you, do you really care if someone's going to run down the street naked? A lot of people wouldn't. So either society has been eroded away or it doesn't exist. Because if it did, if society dictated these things, it wouldn't happen until it's placed in law, and then the government come in and that's what they do. So there is an argument there, but
yeah, but okay, but let's look at the naked thing. If someone was running down the street, I mean, I would care because I don't want to see that. So I
yeah,
mean,
the good people wouldn't.
I mean,
Which is
but
me and
okay,
you.
okay, but if okay, you have nude beaches where if
Mhm.
you want to go to the beach and be booty butt naked, you can, because that particular beach is for people who want to do that particular thing. However, if you go
Mhm.
to the beach across town, you have to put something on. So, I
Mhm.
mean, and society to me does dictate what people do. I mean, when you look at all the laws that are being um challenged now, laws that are being
Mhm.
reversed and everything, that's a lot has to do with what society wants. And and my thing with all of that is I don't have a problem with I have a problem with society having, how do I want to put this? I think society pushes the government to do some of the things that they do.
No, I mean, that's the part that I didn't really want to get into, but I'll kind of say it in a roundabout way without going down the rabbit hole. Is that if the government wants something to happen, whether it be we all wear masks from now on until, or every flu season, or let's say they want to put nudist beaches in every country, or something, just something, anything. If they want something to happen, all they need to do is tell us a few stories in the media, and also make the minority or the people that do want those things to happen, make them the loudest on social media, so that it looks as if there's a lot more cry out for these things to go ahead. And that's the part that I know, being a conspiracy theorist, I think happens. And I think you don't need to be too much of a conspiracy theorist. I think most people realize the government, if they want something to happen, it will happen. And they just get influencers to push for it. They'll get famous people to be in favor of it, and they'll get social media to start talking, and they'll get some stories to back up why it's a good idea in the media. So again, that's why I'm saying, like, the person next door to me, I don't even know his name. I don't know these people. I don't know the person across the
Okay,
road.
but
I
okay,
don't know.
but
So how do they dictate to me?
but
Sorry.
whose fault is that? If you don't know your neighbor or the person across the street, couldn't that also be your fault that you don't go next door to get to know your neighbor, or
Yeah,
go across the street to get to know
yeah,
to know your neighbor?
yeah, but I think that's the majority of people in the world today, is that we don't talk to each other. Even you go into a lot of people do have the gift of the gab, like our friend Green Sunrise. He's one of those that could talk to anybody. I go out with him for a coffee or a breakfast on a Saturday morning, and he's always stopping and saying, "How are you? How's your day?" to people. And I think those people are the minority. A lot of people just keep themselves to themselves now. So I don't get where people would come on or be on social media ranting and raving about society making them feel a certain way. Because other than having a stare, I admit there are people who stare and point at people who are different, but that's the only pressure. And if you're allowing that to dictate the way you make decisions, then I think that is, it's weak-minded, because it's a stare from a person that you don't know, and there's no real push. There's no, like, what was it they did to witches? Like they all grabbed a pitchfork. Was it a pitchfork? And
When they used to burn witches at the stake.
yeah, but like there's no groups of people running around the streets together saying out with the so and so, out with this person, or let's change this. There's none of that anymore, other than the odd protest that nobody really
I
takes note of.
but I'm going to push back on you,
Yeah.
by I'm going to push back on you. I have to disagree, because again, when you say what pressure does someone have, again, you don't know what's going on in their life, so you don't know if they have pressure from work. You don't know if their neighbor is if they're fighting with their neighbor over a tree or something. I mean, you don't
Mhm,
know.
mhm,
So, and yes, I do believe that more people today do not know their neighbors as before. But
mhm,
to me, that's their own fault. That has nothing to do with the government, with social media. That is their own fault. Every time someone new moves into our neighborhood, I go knock on their door and I introduce myself, mainly because I
mhm,
want to know who's living on my street. But I mean, to me, that's just what neighbors do. I know
mhm,
everybody on my block because I choose to get to know them. Do I know how they think or how they vote? Nope, not unless they tell me or it comes up. But I do
mhm.
know who they are. And when we see each other, we wave and we smile. We may not sit and talk, but we'll say, "Hey,
Mhm.
what's up?" Whatever. So,
Yep.
but to me, more people need to, you know, go and knock on doors and say hi, hi to people. And to me, that's
Yep.
more of a personal thing. But by let me ask this: do you think that every culture is different, meaning that so their societal needs and wants will also be different. What you do in the UK may not be what Mosher does. What Mosher does may not be what someone does in say India. So would you also say that every society is also dictated by their culture?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Um, yeah, culture as in like what we do for like, our, yeah, no, I mean like the culture here in Scotland is a drink culture, and we work, we look forward to the weekends, and we go out and we get drunk, and there's a lot of men that like to go to the pub and read the newspaper. The women like to shop. Like those kind of cultural things are different in every country, I would say. But again, I was thinking more of an analogy of like what's happened in the last 2 years with like lockdown. If people don't voice their concern about what's going on with like these lockdowns and government restrictions and people's businesses being closed down. And another reason to add to that is because the government stopped us from gathering in places and kept us 6 feet apart. And I think that was a telltale sign. They didn't want that, because when men gather around in pubs, they talk, and men and women. But that's another example of where we've been eroded down to like social media, and it's actually anti-social media, because people don't. It's just full of bullying and mean comments and things. Like no wonder people have been withdrawn and don't want to talk to people.
Okay. So Mosher, you want to respond to what Boss said?
But I totally agree with what he said about culture. Each country has, or each people has their own culture, like what he just mentioned, and this culture we inherit from our grandfather and grand grandfather. So uh, he is definitely correct about what he said, and that's what also I have said to you.
Okay. So then I'm going to go on to my other part of this question is when I say who is society, and my other question is, and why are they always in our business? So I'm going to ask you, do you think society is in our business, or you think I'm just going back down the rabbit hole a little bit with Ba? Do you think the government is in our business?
Well, you know my answer to that one.
You are focusing too much with you are focusing too much with society.
Yeah.
I mean, well,
No,
that's
no. I
the
mean,
well. I mean,
that's a show title.
that's the show title. So that's what I'm saying. So do you think that
So so your question is if a society being interfere in the business, or the government who is running the business?
I
That's
mean,
is
well, I mean, because well,
no.
we did say that society. Uh, we did say that society elects and puts into office the people who make laws and what have you. So, is it society that's in our business, or is it the government in our business? Is society telling me, whether or not I could paint my house a lime green, or is the government saying you cannot or can paint your house a lime green? When Bob was talking about the HOA. So Moshe, that's what I mean. So is it society that's in our business, or is it government that is in our business?
It depends on the business which you are asking about. If the business is about work, I think society is who is having the individuals who is running that business. He is free to do what he want in his business. But if the business is governmental, or for society, I think government are responsible about that business.
Okay, all right. Bob?
Yeah, I'm saying I think you'll know my answer to that one. Um, because to put it bluntly, it's like I cannot affect I can't take anyone's freedoms. I can't change the way they live their lives. I can voice my discontent, my what is it, discontent. I can make them feel horrible for the day. I can call them names. I can do, but I can't take away their freedoms. I can't make them live their lives any differently. Only the government can do that. So that's why I'm saying that.
Okay. Crucible, welcome. Crucible, are you there?
Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. I was on mute. Yeah, good topic. I think Abba and Moshe, they're both making very good points. Society, not to generalize too much, is obviously a multifaceted, multi-layered entity with lots of moving parts on it. And I think when we think about society, quote unquote, it's this faceless, nameless, amorphous, anonymous body that imposes will and order on us as a people, but it really isn't faceless and nameless and anonymous. It's us. We're all society. And when you talk about the government, I mean, the government is obviously part of society, but the government doesn't regulate every aspect of our business as much as they try. We have to self-regulate, and that's when we talk about, can you paint your house a certain color? Can you do certain things that technically are allowed in the country, but may be socially chaotic or maybe antisocial, that places burdens and obstacles and pressures on other people unnecessarily. So we have to kind of self-police ourselves and kind of make sure that we're doing the right thing and holding each other accountable. Now, everybody has a different version of what's acceptable, so that's a very subjective thing. But I think we've got the element of society with the government, who is elected and charged, sometimes incompetently, with imposing rules and laws and order on us as a society. We have to have it, otherwise we'd have chaos, and we need jails and prisons to place people who don't conform with the norms and rules of society. But then we've got each other as our society, that we don't have legal responsibility. I can't walk next door to my neighbor who just painted his house bright red and say, look, I'm going to arrest you because I don't like that color. We can't do that. So we have to put less direct pressure on people, whether it's peer pressure, whether it's shame. I don't know what it is, but we are responsible for keeping each other accountable and keeping our society civilized. If it gets to the point where we can't self-police or can't self-regulate, that's where the government steps in. And as Ba said, you should know my feelings on that too. Government is always too much up in our business, but are we collectively too much up in each other's business or not enough? You see things that happen in society all the time now where I saw that happening, I didn't speak up. I saw that happening, I didn't speak up. So there's examples of that all the time. And it's not just violent things, it's mental health issues. It's all kinds of things where we as a society see and hear with our own eyes and our own ears, yet we don't act because, well, it's none of my business. That's that person's business. I can't be up in that guy's business. Well, technically, no, you can't. But if we just let everything go under the auspice of it's hello?
You have just gone out.
I got a phone call. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up real quick. Yeah, so there's we see things in society that we know are wrong, that our instincts tell us are not right, but we hide behind, sometimes legitimately, sometimes not so legitimately. We hide behind this concept that what we do is our business and what somebody else does is their business. And I think in a lot of ways that becomes a very slippery slope because we don't want to speak up.
Okay, well, some of the things that you talked about, we touched on earlier in the show. But okay, Mosher, Bod, you guys want to respond to what Crucible said?
Just want to say that he said about each one he has his business, and when it comes for you, for example, it's not your business, and that is the business of the others. That's the rule now of the government, to play that role, to to put regulations and to put system to, to organize the things. This is the role of the government.
Okay. Yes, Bob. We are still okay. He left, and probably has to come back in.
So
Okay.
that is my response to Crucible.
Okay.
So
So, Mosher, would you say that most governments are sort of kind of the same across the world? That they all technically, and I say technically, have the same goal? They may go at it differently, but they all have the same goal.
it depends on the country. As I just said to you, there is a autocracy, and there is generatocracy, and there is uh, aristocracy, and what we call it, is stratocracy. I don't know if you know what the meaning of a stratocracy. The stratocracy is the government which be led by army, by military people. So uh, it depends on the government who is ruling the country. So, and some government are, I don't want to say that all government are looking for their pocket, I mean business for themselves. But most of the government in this time looking for their pocket, and that is the game of people. They have to stand up and to show and to say to the government, enough is enough. And that goes back to society again. Society is responsible for everything bad is going on to the country. If we don't stand up, the government will make more bad things. But if we stand up and we speak up, then they will change their mind.
Okay. Ba, I had gone to you, and you were not able to hear me, so you are back. So,
Yeah. That was weird. I got kicked, I think, and then
well, I
yeah.
didn't do it, just so you know.
No, no. I was wondering if we were all kicked because of the topic. Maybe they're listening. um, no,
Government
but
are listening.
yes. Um, no, I mean, I think there is a real case for. I mean, what I say is there is no society, especially. I mean, I can only talk for the UK, but I mean, I would say that especially with what's going on in the last 2 years, that if there was society, and I'm talking about, you know, groups or town hall meetings of, people, and there was a voice level, that maybe we could do something, if for the people who were having their businesses closed down, or wasn't happy with the way the world was going in certain areas, that they would have a voice. And uh, again, I just feel that all that's been eradicated a long time ago. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I will tell you that in my zone, or whatever you want to call it, we have zones here. I am the neighborhood watch captain, and I do go to. We have our quarterly meetings, and so I do go. I do show up, and I am a voice. So,
Okay, so if you don't mind me asking, then what things are discussed there? Are you allowed to divulge?
well, no, okay, we talk about like the mayor comes, and some city council people are there, and they talk about if there's anything particular, like what people in the in our town, some of the questions that they have, and can they do this, and can they do that. We talk about city code. We talk about things that are coming up, like if we're having any fairs or anything that are coming up, and you know um uh this group of people are going to do this, and this group has volunteered to do that. The mayor talks about anything that's going on with the law enforcement. We've had the uh, every other quarter, the sheriff of the county will come in, and he'll talk about different things, that have been going on. If there's been more crime, less crime, things like that. And we literally talk about some of everything, and then we go back and we can relay it to everyone in our zone. But we do also invite people who are in our zone to come to some of those meetings. Some people show up, some people don't. I find that a lot of times the people who are complaining the most, and you say, oh, we're going to have a meeting on this and such a day, whatever, they'll find whatever reason not to show up.
Yeah.
So
So do you feel they are successful? Like, do things actually get done, or
oh
there's a
yeah,
lot of it
yeah,
that
yeah. And
yeah.
I don't know if it's because we're a small town that it is, but everyone definitely has a voice, and you do have people who are helping other people do certain things. Like if someone in one zone is not able, well, how are you getting your people to do whatever? And somebody else will say, oh, well, I'm getting everyone to do it this way because of this, and then they'll come over, they'll help you, or whatever. So, but I do find that the fact that we have people from different factions of the city come in, like the finance officer and things like that, and we're able to really grill them on how they're spending money and things like this, and we take that back to the people in our group, whatever. But the main thing is neighborhood watch, to make sure in terms of crime and things like that.
Well, there you go. It's inspiring to hear, and I stand corrected that that is definitely a form of society, and they can influence, the way that the town is run, and what's, voicing your concern for something. And
But you
yeah,
also
that's
have
good.
to volunteer, and that's when I say that it bugs me when people complain and they'll say this and this. Well, how come, in my um, um, neighborhood, we aren't doing this and we aren't doing this, and we need more of this, and we need more of that. And I'm like, okay, so why don't you volunteer? Because for a long time, I was the only zone that only had one watch person, and that was me. And I would get all these things, in my email about, how come you're not doing this, and how come you're not doing this. I'm like, how big this zone is? I have been asking for someone to step up and volunteer for the longest. Why don't you? It was mainly these two people who would just get on me about, you're not doing this, and you aren't doing, well, then why don't you help? Silence, until finally someone said, I'll help. And now I have like four people, whatever. But again, the people who complain are usually the ones who are the not me. They don't want to step up, or they'll have a reason why. So on the other side of that, things can work, but you have to work together.
Yeah, awesome. That's good. Gives me some faith or hope. That's good. I'll have to look and see if my hometown's got a what is it? What does he call it?
We call it neighborhood watch.
Yeah, I'll maybe have to join my neighborhood watch.
So, okay, so I'm going to start wrapping it up. Crucible, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I joined late, so I'm probably going to just keep repeating myself. But I think the concept is a fascinating one. I don't. If I'm going to repeat myself, I apologize. But I do think we all have an obligation, within certain limits, to keep each other honest and to keep each other accountable. We insist as Americans on living in a very free and very independent society. And there are pitfalls and downfalls to living in that society. And it's hard to know where the lines are drawn, and it's hard to know not to cross them. The government's a whole nother conversation. But I think collectively and individually, if we try to have a little bit like you do with your neighborhood watch thing, I mean, that's a positive step forward. And I'm encouraged, like Ba, to hear that there's finally some progress. So I just think we have to kind of know what the right thing is and not be afraid to do it, but also not impose our morality on people, because we do, like I said, live in a free society. So anyway, thanks for having me.
Okay, Mosher, do you want to add any last words?
I wish to all societies best life and prosperity. That's it. And thank you for having me. And it was pleasure talking to Crispel and Ba and you. And it was a wonderful conversation.
Well, thank you for coming up, and I hope you come back.
Welcome.
And Bob, you have the last word.
No, and again, as always, I enjoyed the show. Is it Mosher or Moshir? How do you say your name?
Moshir.
Moshir. I think I've heard you before. I stayed in the comments one time and you were talking with, I think it was Pike or Unicorn, his name was at the time, or Pine. And it was all about your country and what's happening over there. And I do sympathize with that. So maybe we'd like to connect and listen to some of that sometime. But it's been good hearing you tonight. So, and Crucible, as always, you can always put what I'm trying to say a lot better than I can. So, thank you too, and thank you, Solid.
Always, Bob, always. So, everyone, again, thank you so much. Moshir, did you want to say something else?
Yes, I would like to thank Ba for his feelings and thank you very much. And on behalf of my people to Scotland people, we always support you and love you and thank you all.
Okay. All right. So on that note, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I am going to see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for everyone for liking the show. And Frankie, thank you very much for your super chat. I do appreciate it. And on that note, guys, go where the wind takes you. And I hope to see you tomorrow. Bye. Thank you, D-Mac. Let's see who else was here. Crazy Train was here. Doss was here for a bit. Crazy Lady was here. Crazy Train was here. Frankie, Power Girl, thank you all. Let's see. And again, Mosher, Ba, and Crucible for coming up on the panel. And anyone who is listening over on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, thank you. Even though I have a feeling that our Twitter or our YouTube may get taken down because of some of the content. But we shall see.